We may be nearing the end of the year, but that does not mean that we're slowing down on book releases. In fact, I think this might be the most book releases that I'm going to talk about in a single book release video. So hopefully your TBRs are prepared to explode. I do not read the entire synopsis of any of the books on this list, but I will have all of these books in the description. So if you want to check them out and possibly add some of them to your TBR, you can definitely do that. And if you add them to your TBR, maybe consider giving me a like. And with that, let's get into the first release on this video. This book comes out November 1st. It is a novella called Sistah Samurai. This is no revenge story. I ain't got time for that. I've got errands to run and things to do and barely enough time to make it home before sundown. I don't care that anybody is expecting me to save them. I might be a Sistah Samurai, but those days playing hero were back when my knees didn't ache and I wasn't the only one left, so leave me alone. In starting off our very many November 7th releases, we're going to start off with probably one of the biggest releases of November, which is Murtagh. In this gripping novel starring one of the most popular characters from the inheritance cycle, a dragon rider must discover what he stands for in a world that has abandoned him. Murtagh is the perfect book to enter the world of Aragon for the first time or to joyfully return. Our next book is The Darkness Before Them, which I have seen quite a bit of hype around. This is a new book in a trilogy. Kat is a talented thief. She's pursuing one big score that will settle the debt that destroyed her family. No easy feat in a realm where indentured spirits hold vigil over every vault and treasure room. However, Kat has a unique gift where she can speak to those spirits and even command them. She has no qualms using her power to her advantage. We have so many November 7th releases, and some of them are sequels or multiple books into a series. Our next one is the third book in the Seven Kennings series. Since I don't want to give away too much, as always, I'm only reading part of the synopsises, but ones that are sequels or series, I am more careful what I read from the synopsis. From the best-selling creator of the Iron Druid Chronicles comes the final book in the epic fantasy trilogy that began with A Plague of Giants, about a war that broke a continent and opened the door to a new world. In what is perhaps one of the most hyped books on this list, this is Bookshops and Bonedust is almost here. It comes out November 7th. Viv's career with the notorious mercenary company Rackham's Ravens isn't going as planned. Wounded during the hunt for a powerful necromancer, she's packing off against her will to recuperate in a sleepy beach town of Merk, so far from the action that she worries she'll never be able to return to it. Our next book is a new book in the Daughter of the Pirate King world, but it is a standalone within this world. So you can start here, or you can start with the Daughter of the Pirate Queen duology. You can't be afraid of the dark when you're the monster lurking in the shadows. As the crew of the Vengeance fears dangerous waters and deadly sea creatures, they accidentally awaken the King of the Undersea, a being who can control the dead. Their rescue mission quickly turns into a fight to save the world. But first, Sorinda must save herself from becoming the undead queen. And our final book is an adult sci-fi book about the future of the world. Well, aren't all sci-fi books about the future? The future is what you see if you don't look behind you. The future is the only reason to do anything, the only object of desire. The future is here. Our next book is our only November 9th release. Typically, books are released on Tuesdays, but this one's released on a Thursday, so there's that. Cass is introduced to the Sisterhood of Silk Knights, a group of women training to fight and working to right the wrongs of men. Cass is drawn into a world of ancient feuds and glorious battles and deadly intrigue, where she soon discovers she holds a power that could change the destiny of her sisterhood. And starting off our November 14th releases is the second book in the Burnished Cities series. I honestly had not heard of this series prior to finding out about this book, but it sounds so interesting and I want to go back and read book one. Strap in for a thrilling adventure in the sequel to the wickedly entertaining debut fantasy that follows our favorite irreverent alchemist, high society ladies, and swashbuckling street gangs as they wrestle with the nature of reality itself. And another super popular book release that is coming in November, on November 14th, we get the 7th Murtagh book. I honestly don't feel like I can say very much about this book. This is the 7th book in the series, and the description does go into things that happened in previous books, so I don't even want to read it myself. So, yay Murtagh, book 7. Also on November 14th, we get the 2nd book in the Sand Sea trilogy. This is a book that I saw pretty much everywhere. It was like all over Bookstagram, so I am sure this is a highly anticipated sequel. The magical sequel to The Stardust Thief, an unmissable debut that weaves a tale of myth and magic in a world steeped in Middle Eastern folklore. And still going strong with our November 14th releases, we are getting a new book in the Kingkiller Chronicles world. This is not an entirely new story. This is a reworking of a story that was already released, but this one is reworked and being republished. Patrick Rothfuss returns to the wildly popular Kingkiller Chronicles universe in a stunning reimagining of the Lightning Tree. Expanded to twice its previous length and lavishly illustrated, this touching standalone story is sure to please new readers and veterans of Rothfuss alike. Moving on to November 21st, but still going strong with our sequel books, we have the next book in the Nameless Republic series. From the city streets where secrets were bartered for gold to forests teeming with fabled beasts, this sweeping epic of forgotten magic and violent conquest continues in this richly drawn fantasy inspired by the pre-colonial empires of West Africa. I feel like November is just packed with big name fantasy authors and really hyped series and sequels coming out, because on November 21st, we also have the final book in the Skyward series coming out. From the best-selling author Brandon Sanderson comes the final book in the epic series about a girl who will travel beyond the stars to save the world she loves from destruction. Moving on to November 28th and moving past sequels and finally getting a first book in the series, we have Godly Heathens. When Jem is attacked by a stranger claiming to be the goddess of death, Willa May saves her life and offers some answers. She and Jem are reincarnated gods who've known and loved each other across lifetimes. But Jem, or at least who Jem used to be, hasn't always been the most benevolent deity. They've made a lot of enemies in the pantheon, enemies who, like the goddess of death, will keep coming. Still on November 8th and still on first books in series comes this historical fantasy tale that just sounds really fun and possibly a little bit terrifying. Victorian governess Winifred Hall knows a con whenever she sees one. When her bratty young charge transforms overnight into a perfectly behaved block of wood, she soon realizes that the real boy has been abducted by the fairy folk. Unfortunately, the Lord of Witchwood Manor is the only man in England who does not believe in fairies, which leaves Winifred in the unenviable position of rescuing the young lord, all by herself. Still on November 28th, we have the second book in the Magician's Desert duology. The first book was re-released recently, but I believe this is the first time the second book is being released. This brand new sequel in Nnedi Okorafor's Shadow Speaker series contains the powerful prose and compelling story that made her a star of the literary science fiction and fantasy space and put her at the forefront of African futurism fiction. And for our final book, while we are still in November, on November 28th, we're already thinking ahead to Christmas with The Kingdom of Sweets. From the best-selling author of the Queen of the Tearling series, we journey into a new kingdom in this brilliant standalone novel, a darkly magical take on the Nutcracker, where two sisters, cursed from birth, are forever changed one memorable Christmas. And there you have all the most exciting books on my radar that are coming out in November. Let me know if I missed any and if you have added any of these to your TBR, and I hope to see you in another video. Happy reading!